Hello, or ahoy, as we say on ships. My name is Paul North, and I am the director and podcast host for Meet the Ocean. Now, we are a nonprofit that likes to reach out to various communities across the world to try and better educate and ask better questions about the ocean and all of its inhabitants. Now, I am a polar expedition diver, and that's a fancy way to say that I like to go into cold water. And when I say cold, I mean about as cold as temperature gets. Salt water has a lower freezing point than fresh does. Maybe you know that. Maybe you just learned something. But what that equates to is a much more extreme environment when you're talking about the Southern Ocean. Now, for such a faraway place, I'm sure you have questions. Many people do. How cold is it? Do you lose feeling in your fingers? The answer is yes. And also, have you ever seen something that's scary? The answer is also yes. But one of my favorite questions to answer is, what is the biggest thing that you have ever seen? Underwater, living, that is. And the answer is something that you might already know. It is the largest fish on our planet. But how big do fish get? Well, we should ask the whale shark. Now, a whale shark is a confusing name because is it a whale? Is it a shark? Well, the answer is it is a shark, but it is the largest shark on our planet and thus the largest fish. And I just so happen to have some pretty interesting footage of one. So enjoy. Wait a second. Whale sharks can sing? I didn't know this. Did you know this? If this is true, then I think we should probably write a song for one. I don't know. Maybe I'll leave that to the experts. Anyways, whale sharks, so huge, able to swallow almost a swimming pool inside of its mouth, and actually they're not swallowing it, they're filtering it, because what they eat are the teeny tiny stuff known as plankton. And those are some of my favorite creatures. So something else I'd like to talk about is a garden. Now, the notion of a garden, what it is probably familiar to you. You know that it's a place where people grow vegetables or maybe a flower or two. But does the ocean have a garden? Or does it have a version of what we know to be a garden? And the answer is kind of yes. You know, there's some British rock and rollers that wrote a song about the octopus's garden. And that's actually true because octopus like to eat things that have shells. And while consuming them, while eating them, they leave the shells behind, but instead of just a pile like some socks in a corner, they actually take the shells and they will arrange them. Now that's interesting because that means they have some artistic flair, or at least a plan of what they're doing with building their octopus garden. Because what actually happens is the light from the sun will come down and it will hit the inside of those shells, which sometimes can be kind of shiny. And what happens when light hits something shiny? Well, it reflects. And that reflecting light will attract potential food for the octopus, like fish or maybe even more fish. So they don't use a hook to catch things. They use cleverness, a shell, and some light, which is known to be the octopus's garden. Now, there are some other gardens, and one of the most interesting one is a creature that has garden in its name. Now, I begin with that because if I told you that we're going to talk about eels, you might say something like, ew, or slimy, and you would be correct. But there are garden eels, and they are fantastic. They tend to be in some warmer water, and they are long, skinny, slimy. They're the eels that, you might think of when you hear the word, but together, in their small holes that they dig down in and sleep in and hide from predators in and rise up to grab food from time to time, it actually makes kind of a dance of eels that Charles Darwin, a scientist and a naturalist from, the 1850-somethings, called a garden of eels. It's the first time that anyone wrote something down about these creatures, and in doing so, gave them a name. So as you watch them dance in the water, keep an eye on what they're looking at. Their large eyes are searching for food, but they're also keeping their sensors open just in case there's a predator that might be around, because there's always a bigger fish. You should know that now because that's just how the ocean works. Sometimes it's a whale shark, but just watch, enjoy the movement. Enjoy thinking about how these creatures live their lives. And if they have the capacity, what would they think of your life? I bet you there's some things that you do that this creature would find fascinating, just as we find them to be fascinating. And that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to show you new windows into the ocean and teach you how to think about it in new ways. So, like I said, my name is Paul North. And here's the thing, if you take my name, Paul North, and you switch it around, then it's North Paul, like North Pole. Well, maybe now you just know I got made fun of a lot as a kid, but that's okay, because now I get to dive in these places and bring it to you. And I hope you have questions. If you do, we will be able to answer them maybe in these videos, maybe in some of our podcasts, or the various media that our nonprofit creates. We are super excited that you are into the ocean and hope that this has provided a little bit of curiosity and even more questions for you to ask about your planet. You can always find more underwater creatures, podcasts, and so many other things on our website, meettheocean.org.